Because for most of, again, up until college, was the only minority, no matter where I went. So, because I grew up in Kansas. So I went to, you didn't know that.
Tell me your story.
Hey, nice to meet you. I lived there till I was 9. And then I moved to Texas. And my town was so small. So, like, for example, when I was in 3rd grade, there was only 60 people people, including teachers, in the whole school. It was like a country. Yeah. Like in the country, took the bus, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were all in the same class.
So you were the only brown person.
Yeah.
How did you guys find this city or this town?
That's where my mom grew up and my grandma. So I was born there.
Oh.
So it was just all white kids. And then me and my brother made up one black person and one Hispanic person. Because my grandma came for Cinco de Mayo and was like, oh, we're going to show the class how to make tortillas. Like that.
How do you feel about that?
It's like an interesting feeling because I didn't realize at the time.
Right.
It's just like what it was.
Yeah, you were just like, I'm going to show them what we do.
Yeah, it was just like, because my grandma is fluent in both Spanish and English, so it wasn't like I went back home and we were this very Hispanic household.
Right.
It didn't really make up of it. It just wasn't that. Like our culture wasn't really huge to us, you know? So when she went to school and was making tortillas, it was just like, oh, my grandma's here. Yay. And she's going to do something. And she was in the newspaper. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So
that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, it was.
Because it was just
cool.
like accepted.
Yeah.
It was like, she's different. We're different. And now we're like assimilating cultures.
Yeah. But then it switched because when I moved to Texas, I was the black girl. Like
You were the black girl.
Mm-hmm. Because any school that I went to, I was the only black girl. And I wasn't Hispanic at all. I'm like, oh, the black girl. You're a black girl from Kansas. You're the black girl. I'm like, oh, shit. My grandma was just teaching the class how to make tortillas last year. You know? So It was just like a really, really interesting switch of culture. And then when I got to college, it was like, oh, you're Hispanic now.
Let's talk about this more after this break. What do you feel like you are? Because I know that people who are biracial oftentimes lean towards one side depending on who you spent more time with or whatever. So what do you feel like you define yourself or you identify as?
What? We had a sneaky spy in the back.
Oh, Charlie.
Hey, Charles.
I just see this dude's head come out. I was like, what's going on?
Come on in. Come on over. We're having deep talk. Hey, Marlon.
That's our guest.
Hello.
Guest.
What's up, y'all?
Charles,
Hey.
show him your face, not your crotch.
Come this way, right behind Kelby.
Yeah, there he is. That's Charles.
Charles.
All right, y'all.
We'll be back. We're getting food.
Okay,
Boy,
bring it back a little song.
A little munch.
Send me
Oh,
a
man.
song.
We hungry.
I still struggle with it a little bit because I don't speak Spanish fluently. And as you noticed, I didn't grow up with a lot of, black people around me. So like obviously my dad's black and his whole family, but I didn't really grow up with them to be like, oh, that's my auntie and we do barbecues, and I didn't have a lot of black culture in my life. So when I got to college, like something simple as my neighbor, She's a black girl from DC. I don't know if you know her, Khadijah.
Oh yeah.
I remember we were going to bed and she was like, "Girl, you ain't gonna wrap your hair?" And I was like, "Wrap it? Wrap it with what?" And she's like, "What do you mean? Like wrap it up like how I have mine, like in a bonnet and everything." And I was like, I've never seen this before.
Wow. Do you wrap it now?
I do, yeah.
Wow. Is there a difference? Like once you started rapping it, you were like, "Oh snap!"
That day, she was like, "Come here, I'm gonna teach you."
Wow.
Because I had just like straightened it and everything. She's like, "You mean to tell me you take 2 hours to do all this work and you're just gonna go lay on it?" And I was like, "Well, that's how I."
That's just how I fab.
That's how it is. Yeah, and so then she wrapped it, and the next morning I was like, "What the fuck? This is it." But yeah, so it was stuff like that I had just, those little things make a difference that I had never heard of. And I mean, I still joke about it today where it's like my black card's totally revoked. You know what I mean?
No,
it's
I get
like,
it. Yeah.
I didn't really, I watched a few shows here and there how we talked about like, what's Tommy's job? I'm like, a teacher. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't grow up eating grits, but I do, I guess, I lean a little bit more towards like the Latino side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it sounds like you're kind of just in between both of them.
I totally am.
You're just kind of like American.
Yeah. This is just what it is. Yeah.
See, I get that because I'm not biracial, but I feel like I'm bicultural because I'm first generation American, grew up in a Haitian household.
Yeah.
And I look at black Americans like they are a totally different group of people. Even though I am born and raised in America, the moment I step outside of my house, I feel like just because I look black, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like this is totally different than what that's inside of my house. And then because there's culture of other Haitian people, we all have the same, we all live the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and our parents don't paint a very good image of like black America, you know, because of just cultural things that happen, whether it be a result of racism or whether it be things that, you know, happen within the culture. Sometimes there's a lot of harping on like, see that's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, just because you look like that don't mean you want to that, you know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that.
Right.
You know, whether it's at home or just within the culture, because you know when you go to church and you know I was going to Haitian churches, or you know everybody was speaking the language, everybody had the same mindset, so there is that sense of like feeling like a middle child.
Yeah, totally that.
Where you're like, my friends like this inside the house, we like that. I'm being told to do this, but then when I step outside, it's the exact. It's like.
It's so, yeah, it's just like a middle child feeling.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think also it's like in Laredo, yeah, it's like because Laredo is so 99% Mexican,
Really?
not Hispanic, not Latino as a whole, Mexican, right? So it's like little Mexico. So everyone, assumes that you speak Spanish. If Rashawn pulls up, he's speaking Spanish. There's no if. You just should know it. You're here, you should know it.
So the few black people that live there speak Spanish?
Probably not. But it's like, I mean, I learned most of my Spanish when I did live there. Because it's just like, if you don't know it, you better get to knowing it. Because everyone spoke it.
Talk it.
They're just going to speak it, and you better understand because that's what it is. But then I moved here. I mean, you met me. I had an accent.
Yeah. You don't have an accent. You had a dialect.
I had a dialect. It's true.
AMDA. Learn that in my $100,000 program. What y'all learn, math? Huh?
Y'all learn science.
Yeah, lames. I seen you working at Starbucks. I'm applying. Can you put a good word? Can you put a good word in for me? Do you ever, do you, Rashawn, identify